Hey guys, today we are going to be analyzing Jordan Peele's 2017 film, Get Out. Distinctively, we will be analyzing the first sunken place scene. There is no denying throughout time the American society has discriminated and oppressed African Americans in our nation. Many people have tried to change the harsh stereotypes placed upon the black race. In Henry Louis Gates Jr.'s Frederick Douglass's Camera Obscura, there are many photographs of Douglass trying to erase the narrative of the black man. He used chiasms to highlight the irony of a country that was built on freedom still contained slavery. Another black social reformer was W.E.B. Du Bois. He used double consciousness, the internal conflict of a minority member in an oppressive society, to share how people can perceive the same situation differently. These two men worked in the early 20th century to change their racist stereotype. Now, in the present 21st century, people are still working on social reform. Jordan Peele, a black American film writer and director, is not only a student of black and African American studies, pushing for reforms, he is also a student of cinema. In Peele's 2017 film, Get Out, the main character Chris spends a not-so-happy weekend with his girlfriend's all-white family. Although the situation he was in is not common, the overall idea is just one example of how he was seen and looked at like an object. Inspired by Hitchcock, Du Bois, and Frederick Douglass, Jordan Peele uses the exaggeration of the gaze between Chris and the white family and friends to further represent the experience of a black man in a white society. Right before the scene begins, Chris is just returning inside from a smoke when Rose's mother finds him. Missy's a psychiatrist and offers to hypnotize him so he'll stop smoking. Because Chris is dating her daughter and staying in her house, he found it hard to refuse.
Tell me when you found it.
This scene opens up with Chris and Rose's mom, Missy Armitage, sitting in the living room staring at one another. Asking him questions, he has flashbacks to the day, seeing himself from another perspective, the sound of rain and the clink of the teacup in the background.
Chris, look.
With the flashback, Peele is using Du Bois's double consciousness with Missy getting to visualize him that day. She starts asking him deep and personal questions, mostly pertaining to the death of his mother. When he found his moment emotionally vulnerable, he explained it to her. In Du Bois's The Souls of Black Folks, he describes double consciousness as looking at oneself through the eyes of others. In other words, it is the ability to understand one situation through another's eyes. However, in this moment, Chris is not seeing the day like he remembers. He is seeing it through her white vision.
And what do you do?
As the scene continues, Missy starts to plant ideas into his head, making him believe that the day was his fault. Like I mentioned before, her white vision.
You didn't call anyone?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I just thought that if I did, it'd make it real.
You're so scared. You think it was your fault? How do you feel now?
I can't move.
You can't move.
Why can't I move?
Missy still hasn't broken eye contact with Chris, who is lost inside his mind. Chris whispers, "I can't move," as Missy responds, "You can't move." Missy contains all the power as Chris is slowly becoming more and more helpless. In Zadie Smith's Get In and Out, who owns Black Pain, she states, "Why should I fear the black man in the city? The second, though not entirely unknown, is certainly more obscure. Why should I fear the white man in the woods?" This example of chiasmus explains instead of us meeting a white man being attacked by a black individual, it is a black man being mentally attacked by a white individual. We so often see the stereotype narrative that Frederick Douglass tried to erase. However, in this case, it is quite ironic. The monster could be anybody. In this moment where Chris is so weak and helpless, Missy connects it to the day where he was paralyzed and did nothing for his mother, making him think it was his own fault. Peele is demonstrating how little power Chris has compared to Missy.
Now, sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
Now sink into the floor. Sink are Missy's triumphant words as Chris sinks into the sunken place. He falls deep into his mind, watching from a far, dark, and empty place. In this moment, he is looking out at Missy, staring at her, but his gaze has no power. The sunken place is a representation of Missy's complete control over Chris, her gaze having literal power over him, losing his complete autonomy as he's hypnotized. is similar to Hitchcock's movie Rear Window when Jeff sees Lisa get attacked by Mr. Thorwald, but he can't do anything about it because he has 2 broken legs. In this clip, Hitchcock has made Jeff helpless to aid Lisa, showing the psychological gaze. Not everybody in the gaze has power at all times. However, in contrast, Peele is using the gaze to represent social justice and the experience of a black man in a white society. Peele states, "The sunken place means we're marginalized. No matter how hard we scream, the system silences us." In other words, he's using the sunken place as a metaphor for the American society and the system put in place that is restraining and repressing the rights guaranteed in the basic foundations of our nation. Chris is trapped in the sunken place, screaming, crying, looking out, trying to get some attention, but no one can hear him. He has no power and is crying for help, just like African Americans are crying for help in our American society today. Jordan Peele is a 21st century activist through his art. Inspired by Alfred Hitchcock, W.E. Du Bois, and Frederick Douglass, he uses the exaggeration of the gaze in his film to represent the experience of a black man in a white society. His sunken place is how many people of color feel in a country that's supposed to represent freedom and equality, but are not heard and not even being close to equal. Jordan Peele is one of the millions of black people fighting for their freedom. And with his platform, he is showing us the real experience of a black man in a white society.